So I get this question all the time. All the time. So we're going to go through it today. I primarily work off a Windows machine. It's just my go-to, my favorite. I work, they let you to work with whatever you want. You want to work with Mac, you can work with Mac. You want a Linux machine, you can work with it as long as it fits with like your team requirements or whatever, right? You want to work with Windows, Mac, like whatever, you can work with whatever you want. I just love Windows. I like, especially now with WSL. Now, because it's, in my opinion, you can do content creation, which I do a lot. You can game, which I game a lot. And then you can code, which is kind of like the three things that I do on a computer. Macs can't really do the gaming part well. But in terms of like productivity and programming, Macs are great too. Linux, they don't have the best support for like content creation type things. So yeah, I feel like Windows has a balance of all the things that I want. So anyway, I get asked kind of like my terminal stuff. So in the terminal, I usually have, this is the Windows terminal, right? I have this is PowerShell. And then in here, this like customization here, this is called Oh My Posh. Okay. So like when I list out, hold on. Move into, actually, where am I? Okay. ls-l. So if I do ls here, you see I have this customization with like the little icons. That's called Oh My Posh. All right. In WSL, I use Ubuntu. I'll switch to the smaller camera here. Here we go. In WSL, I use Ubuntu, and then I use the Z shell, the Zish shell, right? I don't find myself often switching to Bash. The C shell and Bash are pretty similar, but I use the Z shell, and then this customization here is called Oh My Zish, whatever. I don't know how you pronounce this, right? So for example, if I go into developer here and I do LSL, hold on, this is actually it's way too small for everything, right? Or if I go into one of these projects, like let's move into like I don't know, what do I have? The Azure Resume project. You see I have more customization. This is the Oh My Zish, okay? Now from here, we can open up Visual Studio Code, because this is the next question I get a lot. What's my Visual Studio Code configuration? I personally, so let me go big cam here. I think it is a waste of time to spend customizing every single little detail of your environment that you use to program, right? If you're spending every single day trying to figure out like more customizations, you're just taking time away from actually working, in my opinion. So get it to a place where you're comfortable and kind of like stick with it, become very productive with it. And that's when you can find things that you can like, change and it'll be a little better or whatever. But like, don't hyper fixate on like this theme. I found this theme like 2 years ago and I have not changed it, right? So we'll start with that. So we'll start with the theme. I'm going to close everything here. We'll switch back to the smaller camera. So the theme itself is one called, I'm going to open extensions here. So the theme is called Deep Dark Material Theme. And this, I think it has two options, right? It has like a full black and then a default version. I typically use the full black version. Another thing I recommend is you can sign in and have your settings sync on, like you see it here, this option here. I highly recommend this because when you go and switch to another computer, or like my work computer and my desktop are synced all the time. Like if I change a setting here, it'll be over there. I highly recommend that. So the theme is Deep Dark Material Theme. As far as extensions, locally I have it says I have 49 installed, but I don't work locally much anymore. I work inside of a container for almost everything that I do. So I recommend the Dev Containers extension, so this one, and then using Docker in the Dev Containers extension, and I'll show you what that means now, right? Oh, and the other one maybe. Oh, obviously GitHub Copilot, Copilot chat. So having this here, this is freaking awesome. But again, as far as like VS Code local, I don't really do anything else much more than this. Then what I do end up doing is I think this project has a, yeah. So this project, do Control Shift P, reopen in container, and then I select the container I want. We'll just do the .NET one. And then you'll see how this is going to change for a second. What up, Jay? Someone messaged me. All right. It looks like I have an update. All right, so you see here, the stuff on the left's changed, right? Because this is now reflecting to be only inside of the development environment for this particular dev container. So you see I had to divide it up into a dev container from my API, a dev container for my front end, and a dev container for my tests. Because my front end is JavaScript, I don't need .NET stuff in there. My API is .NET, I don't need JavaScript stuff in here. And my test is .NET, so I don't need any Azure Function stuff in there. And I like to keep it that way. That way you end up developing inside of the same environment that your stuff in production is going to be, which I think is so freaking cool. Right? And then in here, you can customize your your environment to your heart's content, right? So in here, I have GitHub Copilot chat. I have Copilot. I have, if you go to extensions, you click on under this local installed and recommend. I'm gonna minimize that. Under the dev containers.NET Azure Functions, it says the name of the dev container. It says all the extensions that I have specific to this environment as well, right? So you see, for example, Azure Functions. But if I do Control Shift P and I do switch container, and then I select, for example, my front end, let's let that reload. My cat, of course, had to, every time I'm on a video call or anything, like I could be working here completely fine, but if I'm streaming, recording something, my cat always she just somehow understands that I'm on something that requires my attention and her not being here. Okay, so now look here. Now extensions, if I go to the extensions, you see they're different, right? I only have the ESLint, and GitHub Copilot, and I have a live preview here. That's it, right? Because I don't need none of the other stuff. And you see here the folders that reflect are only CSS, like the front end stuff. And this stuff is so cool. And that's kind of it. I have I have the other extension is icons. I think it's called like VS Code icons. Let me see. VS Code icons, and that makes this stuff look pretty cool here. But outside of that, I don't really have much more customizations. I think anything else on top of that would just spend time that I could spend working or like building something, really. So that's kind of it. For those who ask me about my VS Code /terminal /WSL setup, that's kind of it. Oh, and I primarily work from WSL. So you see this says, I'm in WSL, and then you see I used code to open it up. So I'm working inside of like a Linux environment, right? Obviously the container itself, like we can look at the container. We're going to do close remote connection, and then we'll look at the let's open this one some more. And we'll go here, we'll go to the dev container, we'll go to my API, and then this will tell me, actually no, my Docker Compose, and this tells me the images that I'm using for each one of my dev containers. And that's kind of it. That's all I do.